I am back. I believe I was mentioning how um, destroying communications facilities can land you on Comstar's bad side, and if they blacklist you, you're going to have problems. Um, Luckily, we hadn't actually. Um, there are a few mission arcs where I've had issues with the game crashing on the PS4. Um, and the only solution I found was just to reload in and hope for the best. We do. We did briefly. Not entirely certain what happened. They would have had difficulty dealing with me while I was in my cockpit. Um, the windscreens are made of ferroglass, which is basically immune to small arms fire. Uh, Never quite explained. I believe they opted for the technobabble solution.
Reactor online. Sensors online. Weapons online. All systems nominal.
The remote communications array may have provided the most direct means of communications with Vetsela's 4, but it is far from the only means of attempting to get a message out. We cannot risk the Sentinels being tipped off to our presence before our ambush is ready. So we need you to destroy a number of satellite arrays in Rung Tai Sin City. See that it gets done, Commander.
Now, destroying the communications arrays is slightly suspect.
Target in sight.
Taking battle mechs into an urban environment with the intent of destroying infrastructure is a war crime. Fortunately, the Ares Conventions, which is the settings version of the Geneva Conventions, are more honored in the breach.
Target acquired. Target acquired. New target in full.
We're on your target, Commander.
Target acquired.
Right, and that is how I once witnessed you decide to stand on one and fall through it.
Target acquired. Target destroyed. Target destroyed. Target acquired.
So you fully intended to drop your mech into the basement and break both its legs. Good to know.
Target destroyed. Target destroyed. Target acquired. Target destroyed.
Down. Enemy eliminated.
I knew I was missing some targets.
Target acquired. Target destroyed. Target destroyed.
Yeah, heat management takes some getting used to.
Target off the list.
I consider myself lucky that I have been dealing with this franchise in one form or another since I was a kid. And I started with MechWarrior 3, which they use the same mech design system as the tabletop. So you could build some pretty interesting and questionable builds. At the time, I did not like having to keep track of ammunition, which is how I had an Atlas build that was armed with 6 extended range PPCs. Whatever I shot with them wasn't standing back up, which was good because I wasn't moving anywhere for several minutes. Yeah. Well, the thing with that is if you pack more ammunition, you pack fewer guns.
Target acquired.
I have since learned how to make a balance there, but younger me was an idiot.
Target down.
Acquired. Target destroyed. Target destroyed. Target acquired. Target destroyed.
I'm not entirely certain who it was decided that fielding LRM carriers in an urban environment was a bright idea.
Objective down.
Uh.
Target acquired. Target destroyed. Target acquired.
I
operating base.
will.
There is much that
This
we
be,
need to discuss.
it's a known fact that I will fight a duel at the drop of a hat. How dare you drop my hat? That is my favorite hat. I demand satisfaction.
Threat eliminated.
Yeah, that too. I won that one, by the way. Mangoes are indeed the most delicious fruit in the world. It has been proven by combat. Ow.
Our window for extraction is closing. Let's get out of here.
I second the motion. I do not want to be getting shelled any more than I have to. Go on. I cannot see it being a factional fight. If it were to happen, I imagine it would happen on Solaris, which is basically the mech gladiator planet. And it would be used as an excuse for a duel. Something like that, yes. Alrighty. So the communications are disabled and the ambush is set. All that remains is to execute the plan. They've issued a false flag statement to Vestalis 3 that pirates have raided the system and have taken control of a number of munitions armories here on the planet, hoping to make a play for Jin Shan, the Golden Mountain, a series of underground vaults on Vestalis 4 that contains a large portion of the Confederation's state treasures stolen by the Compact. The Sentinels have sent only a small portion of their forces to chase these supposed pirates off, while the rest of the Sentinels continue to guard the Golden Mountain. Little do they know that, for now, the Confederation are not after the stolen wealth of their people. They're here to bring vengeance on those who abandoned them in their time of need, and when the Sentinels land here thinking that only a lowly band of pirates are present, they will face the Confederation's glorious wrath. Now is the time for us to join the ambush and punish Candace for her sins of abandoning her father and her people to lick the boots of the Davian imperialists. I mean, they're very good at believing their own propaganda. Right. Contracts. Loot. So there is some truth to what they said. So the story begins at the start of the Fourth Succession War, when Hans Davian, in a cunning act of diplomacy, arranges to marry Melissa Steiner as part of a proposed treaty between the Lyran Commonwealth of, yes, it has everything in it. Fencing, fighting, sports, true love, torture. Anyway, getting back to the story. Hans Davian arranges a wedding with Melissa Steiner as part of a treaty to combine the Davian-ruled Federated Sons with the Steiner-ruled Lyran Commonwealth. He has made diplomatic overtures to the Marik-ruled Free Worlds League, the Lao-ruled Capellan Confederation, and the Kuritan-ruled Draconis Combine, and has been rebuffed in every situation. However, it is the wedding of the century, so all of the heads of states are invited. The wedding goes off without a hitch, and at the reception, Hans Davian turns to his blushing bride and goes, "My dear, I give to you the Capellan Confederation." And at precisely that moment, several regimental combat teams, including the famed Crucis Lancers, invade the Capellan Confederation, conquering something like half of it in a lightning assault. I'm regretting bringing the Annihilator. Yeah, exactly. They seize about half of it, about a third of it, and a chunk of the rest takes advantage of the invasion to split off, forming the short-lived St. Ives Commonality and the equally short-lived Tikhonov Republic. They would not have needed to split off if it had not been, if the Capellan Confederation hadn't been such an oppressive government.
New target, Blackjack.
This is definitely glitched because we are not fighting against House Steiner or with House Steiner. Out of the artillery footprint.
Target acquired.
Well, it was viewed as the first blows in the first blows of the Fourth Succession War. And it's entirely possible that the newfound federated Commonwealth would have been able to conquer the entirety of the Capellan Confederation, except everyone's favorite telecommunications company got involved, and things went pear-shaped for Fedcom. Oh, getting involved in a land war in the Capellan Confederation wasn't the problem. The Confederation was always the smallest of the 5 major successor states. And, well, having, you know... Yeah, you definitely... you never want to go up against Comstar at all. It will end badly. Mind you, a large part of the story arc for this game involves picking a fight with Comstar. But we'll deal with this later. I'd give you more details about how the Fourth Succession War ended, but I have plans to stream a playthrough of the Kestrel Lancers DLC campaign at some point, and that actually covers a lot of the plot as to what happened there. So, I'm afraid you will have to wait until I do that, which will probably happen some point later this summer. Watch this space. But no, I've actually played through the Kestrel Lancers DLC before, and it is an absolute blast. There's some really cool maps to battle on over the course of it. And the way they tie it into the plot is interesting. They figure out how to work your company into a couple of the canon battles, which is really interesting. think that's all the artillery taken care
New
of.
target Jägermech.
I do not like Jaeger mechs. Are so most mechs have both a
Another enemy
English
dropship
name
incoming.
and
Enemy eliminated.
a German name. Because for some reason the two languages BattleTech has really been published in are English and German. Jägermech is one of those ones whose German designation is the same as the English one, because it is actually in German. They are also nasty.
Enemy reinforcements in.
Fortunately, king crabs are nastier.
Target acquired.
That is a terrible pun, and I love it.
Scout unit taking heavy damage.
Target acquired.
Ooh. Now that's an interesting catapult variant.
New target Spider.
Most catapults are all missiles, but there is one variant, which that one was, which I think has replaces the missile pods on the shoulders with PPCs.
Target destroyed.
It was an attempt to increase their longevity in the field.
Target destroyed. Target acquired.
Tin can crushed.
What do we have here? Trebuchet. Thunderbolt. I always get those two muddled up because they're both missile bolts, but the Trebuchet is in the medium weight class and the Thunderbolt is in the heavy.
Look out, Commander. More enemy mechs inbound.
They're also one of those mechs that comes in the box set for the core box set for the tabletop, a game of Armored Combat, and it drives me mad because the tabletop model and the MechWarrior 5 model have the cockpit on the opposite shoulder.
Target acquired. Incoming missile.
So I think that assault at the back's a stock. So once we deal with this Blackjack, we'll go take care of him. We'll leave the Blackjack to its own devices.
Target acquired.
Stalkers are only 85 tons, so they're towards the light end of the assault class. But they don't waste weight on puny things like arms, because they don't need them. They just, strap a bunch of missile pods onto the side.
Target destroyed.
Get my legs unstuck. what's left?
The enemy are deploying still more reinforcements, Commander.
Oh good, they're deploying them on top of us. That's convenient. What have we got?
Target
A
acquired.
Wolverine, an Assassin. What's the Assault? A Banshee. Banshees are 95 tons. And depending on the variant, can be a concern. Mind you, that lovely big humanoid cockpit, you know, gives me a nice, easy target.
Incoming missile. Target acquired.
Copy. We're on it, sir.
Tell my lance mates to deal with that Wolverine.
Target destroyed.
Now, Assassins are funny. They were designed to hunt lighter mechs, but they're not quite fast enough for the job. But they're too lightly armed and too lightly armored to deal with heavier mechs.
I spit on the graves of every
It's-
last one of these traitors to the Capellan state. One day, Candace Liao will pay for her abandonment to our people. And when it does, we will welcome the St. Ives commonality back into the Confederation with open arms. You've proven your worth to us, mercenary. Stay in our good graces and Romano Liao may call upon your services once more.
I think that might be the whole arc. Yeah, it's one of the things I like about the BattleTech setting is most of the mech designs have some flaw or another. And they all, there's like good Watsonian reasoning for all of them. And it basically boils down to actually, you know, having something that resembles a real-world military-industrial complex. Things like the Assassin and the original Charger, the 1A1, which were designed for with a specific role in mind, but the things necessary to make them fit that role in the budget, you know, required, actually made them useless for anything else, and then it turned out that push comes to shove, they weren't as useful for the intended role anyway. That's standard catapult. We'll take the fancy blackjack, I think. Excellent work, Commander. This humiliating defeat for Candace is a blemish on the St. Ives Compact and her rule. She will learn that the Confederation will never forgive her or the people of St. Ives for abandoning the Capellan state. Hopefully, the shame of her loss will begin to stir dissent within the Compact and will drive them back to the Capellan Confederation where they rightfully belong. That won't happen until actually around the point in time I believe I mentioned before that the timeline stops actually progressing along with the canon as of 3050 when the clans are supposed to show up. Yeah, that's the end of that one. No, they've announced that there will definitely not be clan DLC for MechWarrior 5. They do have the rights to the IP for something like the next 3 years, I think. So there's a chance that we will get a MechWarrior 5, MechWarrior 6, sorry, which would feature the clan invasion. And even if we don't get MechWarrior 5, MechWarrior 6 from Piranha, we are in the middle of the MechWarrior Renaissance. Between Catalyst new plastic sculpts for the tabletop, Harebrained Schemes Battletech game, there's a growing community for the fan-made Java port of the tabletop Megamech, and of course MechWarrior Online and MechWarrior 5, so we'll get it sooner or later. I'd actually quite like to see the Blake Jihad, which would be interesting. It's actually on the radar now. If we were following the canon timeline, I think it would be kicking off in about 2 years or so. Basically, it's a religious schism within the ranks of Comstar. You get a significant portion of Comstar employees misinterpret the words of their founder, Jerome Blake, to form a religious doctrine that basically makes them believe that there should be a second Star League under the leadership of Comstar. And when the successor houses form a second Star League with a rotating I can't remember if they call it Star Lord or First. I think it's First Lord in the second Star League. And Comstar isn't included in that. They decide to go a little bit They decide to take matters into their own hands and end up going more than a little extreme with it. And early on in the Jihad, there is a accident in a fight in Lyran space. A nuclear power plant ends up going into meltdown in the area they're fighting over, and the Word of Blake gets blamed for it. And their response, instead of releasing cockpit footage called battle ROMs, proving that they didn't actually destroy the reactor, didn't deliberately destroy the reactor, it was an accident. They kind of go, well, if you're going to accuse us of using weapons of mass destruction, we will use weapons of mass destruction. Which basically results in everyone banding against them. It also results in the clan Ghost Bear, who occupy most of the Free Rasselhague Republic at that point, basically going berserk because one of the Word of Blake's WMD attacks kills. Yes, that's the clan I play in the tabletop. One of the Word of Blake's WMD attacks is on a peace conference which is being attended by the heir of the Ghost Bear leader. And their response to that is to basically decide that not only is the Word of Blake their enemy, anyone who stands between them and the Word of Blake is also their enemy. Which is not exactly helpful from a diplomatic point of view. So I've decided I'm going to start another arc. I'm not sure how much of this I'll get done before I decide to knock off for the night. We are going to be working for the Magistracy of Canopus, and their first Canopian Fusiliers, fending off pirate raids. The Magistracy is interesting in that they're a periphery realm, so not one of the successor states. That was founded. They predate the Star League. The first Star League. They were founded during the Terran hegemony, and I tell a lie. They were formed during the rule of the first Star League, and one of their early leaders was a Star League officer who basically went rogue and took her command with her. As such, they a patriarchal society did institute legislation permitting men to hold the highest office at one point, but despite such legislation being in place, no man has ever actually held the position. They have very lax morality laws and are very what's the word I'm looking for? Their medical legislation is very much sorry, I'm trying to do two things at once, and my ability to multitask is failing me. Their medical technology and laws are some of the most advanced in the, I say in the inner sphere, on the fringes of the inner sphere. You get a fair deal of medical tourism to the Magistracy of Canopus. Alrighty. They also have basically the best human rights record in the setting.
Commander, we want your unit to secure a beachhead for the first Canopian Fusiliers dropships. These Ghost Riders have dug themselves into the region while they plunder the system for loot to offer to Imperator Marius O'Reilly as tribute. Most likely in an attempt for the group to seek asylum in his realm. So be cautious out there.
Destroy the radar dishes directing the anti-aircraft fire. Once they've gone, our employer promises to land a few extra units to help you out.
We have unidentified bottlenecks on screen. Assume they are hostile and engage.
So, House Davian and House Steiner have relatively good human rights records. The Davians they're both claim to be democracies, even if it's very hard for someone who's not part of one of their noble houses to get any position. They're constitutional monarchies, I think. The Draconis Combine, as we've mentioned repeatedly, is more with everything that a feudal system entails. The Capellan Confederation are flat out a fascist dictatorship, and the Free World's League organized. I'm actually, when I get a chance, it's my allies firing. Not sure why they're firing just yet, because I don't know that any of us have a line.
Tango down!
Scratch that one.
Oh, I've lost a
Target
component.
destroyed.
As for other polities, the big one on the fringes, the other big one on this southern fringe is the Taurian Concordat, which I do not know much about.
Wrecked!
Up between the Lyrans, the Lyran Commonwealth, and the Draconis Combine, we have the Free Rasselhaig, a democracy with feudal trappings. They are ruled by a prince, but their prince is elected, and they also don't last particularly long.
Target acquired.
The clans are sort of democratic, but have any Starship troopers by Heinlein. They end up getting conquered by the clans pretty quickly. Yay! We have been discussing about human rights in the setting, and I am trying to explain the clan political system.
They destroyed one of my components. Enemy mech eliminated.
Have you read Heinlein Starship Troopers? Like, not the film, the book. I mean, I enjoy the book. I enjoy the film too. I mean, so in the book, Heinlein posits that okay. So you're aware that in the human government in the book, the only way to get the vote is to do a term of federal service. The clans are a bit like that. Only their military caste get a say in the running of the clans. With Clan Ghostbear, it improves a bit when they occupy Rasselhaig, because they decide to assimilate
Target destroyed.
the local population rather than, like, assimilate the local civilization rather than, you know, trying to impose their own system on it, which would be practically impossible, given that they lack the numbers, amongst other things. But the clans have a rigid caste system to begin with,
Radar dish down.
Target destroyed.
My kill.
split into the warrior caste, which is the highest ranking, the merchant caste, which, you know, is exactly what it sounds like, a scientist caste, a technician caste, and a laborer caste.
That's the last radar installation on the list. Objective complete.
Now, we know they have artillery here.
Reinforcements should be arriving shortly.
Target destroyed. Target
It's been a
acquired.
while since I've read Starship Troopers.
New target cracked.
And I also don't know enough about Roman history to say. It sounds right, at least. I know you would automatically get citizenship if you served in the Roman army. And
Alpha 1-1, this is Whiskey 6-1.
federal service was what conferred citizenship in
We're on our way.
Heinlein's work.
Stand by 2 mics. Whiskey 6-1, out.
Target acquired. New target assassin.
Now, it's a bit of a misconception that it was required to be military service in Heinlein's work.
Target acquired. Target
He makes a
destroyed.
big point about how
Target destroyed.
whilst it was made into law that you had to do a term of federal service to get the franchise, if you wanted to do a term, they had to find something that you could do.
Target acquired.
And it was like, it would include things like, you know, firefighting, the police, etc.
Nice going. Start the capture.
And the concept was that
Made a wee impression on these
in
folk.
order
Aircraft
to
inbound.
have
They're going
the
to try and
ability
recapture
to
this base
determine
fast
how
and take defensive positions.
society was ran, you had to demonstrate that you were willing to take responsibility for that society.
All forces, you are clear to fire on base. Repeat, fire suspect. Fire at will.
We have a new objective, Commander.
Where is... the clans are closest to that in that they're democratic, but in order to have the vote, you have to be serving in the military. Ah, okay, they're in the far north. There's a lot questionable to the social commentary, and now that I'm old and stupid, you know, I recognize the social commentary, but still can't rid myself of the fondness for some elements of their culture. The idea of...
Killed a mech.
I have heard about that. I have mixed feelings, if I am honest.
Acquired. New target flee.
For those of you not in the know,
I have to bail.
he has cast Christopher Walken.
Threat eliminated.
Are you referring to the bit about Dune or the ideas or the clan ideas that appeal to me?
Target acquired.
He's also very white for a man with a Farsi title and Middle Eastern last name. Especially given, you know, the themes and inspiration Frank Herbert was working off.
Target destroyed.
Concept done.
So the idea of a honorable warrior culture appeals to me quite a bit. Like there are some elements of the clan honor code I like.
Target acquired.
you know, there's something. I use the word romantic in the classical meaning, in the concept of resolving disputes with ritual combat.
No more use in this fight. I'll eject.
Target destroyed.
I say, having had earlier discussions about the fighting of duels at the drop of the hat.
Their main force is on its way. Get ready for the worst of it.
Also, the original intent behind the clans was that they were going to stay separate so that they would not get involved in the power struggles in the inner sphere, so they could serve as a shield for humanity against any outside threats that should appear. This obviously got corrupted in the end,
Target destroyed.
as evidenced by them returning to conquer the inner sphere. It'd be kind of like if King Arthur returned to go, I am in charge of Britain now, and if you don't like it, I'm going to decapitate you.
We're reading no further contacts in the field. Colonel Kamathi, prepare your troops for planetfall. Commander, link up with us at the following coordinates in 1 hour. We'll coordinate our next moves once we touch down.
All stations, this is Sierra 1-1. Be advised, we've just completed a re-entry. Lights are green. Dropships can now land. Sierra
I mean,
1-1 out.
they don't tend to come back after 1,400 years. Typically. Or even 400 years in the case of the clans. Also, I think it would confuse the heck out of the English when King Arthur returned and started speaking Welsh.
They had it coming. They had it coming. They only had themselves to blame.
I mean, and the Normans.
They only had the Normans to blame.
Let's see. I took stupidly little damage in that. I like this Orion. Alrighty. We've done good work, but the Algiza Ghost Riders are massing for an assault against Canopus forces. The first Canopian Fusiliers want to minimize collateral damage to their infrastructure, so they will be moving to engage the Ghost Riders in the field. They need me to join the Fusiliers and strike back against the Raiders, but be careful, the Ghost Riders must be truly desperate if they are resorting to piracy, which will make them unpredictable. So... 260 5. So I have an extra 55 tons. I thinks we are going to remove the champion and replace it with the other Orion for now. And I shall take my Marauder. And we will swap you for the YAJ because it's taken less damage. And let's swap Bomb out for someone who can still get experience. Bateman, you're up.
Attention. Prepare for battle line departure.
Ooh, this one might be a slog.
Stand clear.
Reactor online. Sensors online. Weapons online. All systems nominal.
The Algiza Ghost Riders are not backing down. They are moving to engage us in open combat, and the Canopian Fusiliers intend to stand and make an example of these raiders. Commander, you are to assist the Fusiliers in clearing the field. This is a straight-up fight, so work with the Fusiliers and make sure no Ghost Rider escapes. Good luck.
Sometimes if you're off the ground when an artillery shell hits,
New target
it
commander.
will not deal damage.
Target destroyed. Target acquired.
Good kill, Commander. That makes us going critical.
Target destroyed. Target acquired. Target destroyed. Incoming missile. Target destroyed.
Once I'm around this corner, I can start dealing with some of that artillery. I suppose I should be glad they haven't instituted any of the mobile artillery options. Well, it's been a pleasure having you for as long as we did.
Target destroyed. Target acquired. Target destroyed. Target destroyed. Target destroyed.
Has been heavily damaged.
And now I don't have to worry about getting shelled. So,
Go down.
whether a mech is salvageable or not after the
Another enemy
battle
dropship incoming.
is the chances are based on where you hit them. If the reactor goes critical, you're not salvaging it. A center torso hit, actually a headshot has your best chance of letting you salvage it. A center torso hit that does not set off the reactor has your next best, and destroying both legs has the least chance. And then, you know, this drops further depending on how much damage they've taken. You have a very low chance of salvaging a mech if all that's left of it is the head and the legs. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of maths to it to work out what the chances are. I don't know what they are. I just know that if I want to salvage a mech, I want to either take out the cockpit or try and core the torso. You'll note if we come up against things like Highlanders or other Orions. The trouble is, you know, there's a lot of mechs that I try to headshot because headshots are
Target.
effective and relatively easy for them. Examples being a Charger 1A1. You know, if there's any other option, I'm going to salvage something else.
Watch out. That mech is going critical.
I am at heart a combat pragmatist. In my days in the reenactment group when I was at university, we used to say, what was it? Honor and death, positive correlation. Mind you, we'd also point out that death and glory also had a positive correlation.
New target assassin.
I really hope when Call to Arms comes out, I can map the melee to something other than pushing in the stick. There's actually a quote from the Havamal that relates to that. The translation I'm used to goes, "The fool thinks to live forever if he keeps himself from strife. Time will not keep his truce, though spears may spare his life." Although I suppose there are issues with taking life advice from a bit of poetry written over 800 years ago. By a fellow recording oral history from 300 or 400 years before he was born.
Kill, Commander. More enemy mechs inbound.
Enemy destroyed.
acquired. Target
Oh, good.
destroyed.
Someone with missiles dealt with him. I suppose that is one interpretation. The most common one I've seen is that it's more saying that you shouldn't let fear rule you, because it doesn't matter how careful you're going to be, you're going to die eventually. Mind you, the Norse were a very fatalistic people.
That battle mech is marked for destruction.
Ooh.
New target Wolfhound.
The enemy is taking damage. Keep walking.
Somewhere in the 70s, I think. Wolfhounds are pretty neat. Unfortunately, by the time I was running into them, I was on to considerably heavier mechs.
Target acquired.
No. I remember talking about that with you, actually. A headshot. The fool thinks to live forever if he keep himself from strife. Time will not keep his truce, though spears may spare his life.
Target mech eliminated.
Because animals are cool?
Target acquired.
Target neutralized.
Focus one. Taking heavy damage.
No, that's a different stanza.
To eject.
Target destroyed.
Took one down.
Because the translation of that I use is kindred die and cattle die and every man is mortal.
Request support.
Target destroyed. Incoming missile. Target acquired. Target destroyed.
Yes, that is a very good stanza. That's not the one I am thinking of.
We're reading no more contacts within the vicinity. Thanks for the assist, Commander. The Fusiliers are moving
Here,
to capture any surviving forces and prep them for interrogation.
The
With
source
luck,
I
we can
normally
bring this
use
conflict
is
to a close soon.
from Pitt University. I'll have a quick look while I wait on things loading. It's stanza 16. The translation they have on the Pitt University website, which is by Olive Bray, reads, "A coward believes he will ever live if he keep him safe from strife, but old age leaves him not long in peace, though spears may spare his life." Well, I was thinking of it with the kindred die cattle die ones, which are like 82 and 83 or 83 and 84. That's funny. Bateman, Bateman, Bateman. You lost an arm, and it looks like you lost an expensive arm. Hey, a new upgrade. Yeah, our internet is not exactly the best. Oh, there is a part 3. So the Ghost Riders have almost broken, and it's up to us to finish them off. The remaining Canopian forces are dispersing to resecure their citizens and infrastructure, so they want me to hunt down the last of the Ghost Rider leadership for termination. Such a decisive blow should be enough to send whatever remains of those outlaws back to the stars. It's only going to cost an arm to replace. We should get some good salvage out of this, and even if the salvage is less than stellar, we do get a Warhammer has a quest reward. And I like Warhammers. Warhammers are fun. I am going to take a moment or two here before I ready in. Back in a minute. Okay. I was going to call for food in 20 minutes or so after this mission. Alrighty, let's see what we've got
Intel
here.
from our captive raiders have narrowed the possible hideouts of the remaining Ghost Rider leadership to the following positions. The Canopian Fusiliers are already moving to secure Magistracy interests in the system, so this task will fall to your unit alone, Commander. Cut off the heads of the Ghost Rider leadership, and it should send the remaining raiders running back to Alphard. So see that this gets done.
Recent events in the canon, like, I say recent events, the furthest future events in the canon are actually starting to try and restore the mercenary industry. Battletech split into something like 6 or 7 different time periods. Starting with the
Target acquired.
Tango down.
New target flee.
Sorry.
Target acquired.
Starting with the
Enemy destroyed.
the Star League era, and then the Succession Wars, followed by the Clan Invasion,
Target acquired.
the Fedcom Civil War,
Target destroyed.
the Jihad, the Republic of the Sphere, and then the latest period, the Dark Age, which was featured by a breakdown of interstellar communication,
Our target is
and then
here.
the
Let's hope we have better luck
most
at the other
recent
locations.
development has been the what's called the Ill Clan era, in which one of the clans actually manages to take Terra. And after the word of Blake, Jihad, the storyline, the various factions started to try and
Target acquired.
cut down on the existence of mercenaries
Nice shots.
for various reasons. But the latest period has mercenaries as a sub-faction making a bit of a comeback, which is interesting.
Threat eliminated.
I like it because it's easier to
Target acquired.
sort of make your own backstory for a unit as a mercenary company than to try to work something into the lore of an existing faction.
No hope for the free world in this state. I'll have to eject.
Target destroyed. Target acquired. New target, Centurion. Target acquired.
I am a sniper mech. I am not supposed to be in this close.
Target destroyed.
Kills confirmed. Your mission is complete, Commander. Return to your dropship and rendezvous on the Canopian Fusilier's position. We'll see what the surviving Ghost Riders decide to do.
Now let's pack it in before their friends arrive.
I was trying to back it up, but there wasn't a lot of up to back.
Target acquired.
Tango eliminated.
So I am in a Night Star, which is at this point, a pretty much extinct mech. There are very few of them kicking around. They were first built at the very end of the Amaris coup, when Amaris forces realized that Star League Defense Force commanders particularly enjoyed or particularly favored Marauders as command mechs, and so started to target them preferentially. The idea was that at 95 tons and with a pair of Gauss rifles,
Destroyed.
the Night Star, which was about as fast as the Marauder, would be just as effective as a command mech, but much harder to bring down. Unfortunately, mechanics-wise, they don't make a very good command mech, just because anything with 2 Gauss rifles is enough of a target that you want to focus on it. So they tend to be a priority target. They'd be a priority target even if the commander wasn't in them. That, and it's very hard to justify not prioritizing a 95-ton mech as a target, whatever its loadout is. The salvage was boring. Oh well. Didn't take much damage, mostly because there was nothing there. Good work, Commander. We've confirmed that the El Giza Ghost Rider leadership is dead and any remaining mercenaries have disbanded. It seems that since they have failed to provide sufficient tribute to the Marian hegemony Imperator, the offer for refuge has been withdrawn. The surviving Ghost Riders will likely be hunted by whatever they were running from. Nevertheless, it's not our concern. The Marians are a particularly expansionist periphery realm that have modelled themselves very deliberately on Imperial Rome. Anyway, on that note, I am probably going to knock off here, because I could possibly do with some supper at some point tonight. So I shall bid you all good night. I'm going offshore for work for a few days, so the next stream probably won't be until late next week. So, on the other hand, the video for this stream both parts will be going up on YouTube shortly. And yeah, search for Bloody Rags and Whiskey if you want to see anything you missed. It'll be stream 4. The Only Truth That Sticks, comma, tributes for the Imperator. Yes, you better not. You're welcome to stream your attempts at Mech Warrior, but if I come back to discover that you've been streaming Cookie Clicker, there will be problems. Anyway, good night all. It has been fun, and I hope to see you all next time. Toodle pip.